Appreciate the head nods.
This is a cool intro, man. It's like a Kid Cudi type vibe.
Hey. Exactly. That's exactly what I was going for. I nailed it. Well, welcome back, everybody. Happy Monday. I'm your host, Hayden Humphrey of this show, Happy Hour, and I'm very excited today to have a special guest, a good friend of mine, viewer of this program, and just an all-around good dude, Mr. Malcom Pullom. Malcom, how the heck are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for having me. I enjoy watching your show. It's a good change of pace with what's going on, like as far as all the turmoil and stuff. So
Totally.
It's good to have some uplifting times during your week. So
love it, man. Well, thanks. And thanks for being a part of it. Really appreciate that. Well, I was talking a bit with Malcom about what he's up to now, but Malcom, for the folks watching who don't know you, tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to.
Yeah. So I'm the operations manager up in Akron, Canton, Ohio. Went to school with Hayden at OU and in California for a bit. So we have that little bit of California vibe in common. And we both kind of moved back towards the East Coast or Midwest, and just enjoying life, man. So it's good. It's better on the East Coast. I can say that.
Yeah. Malcom was sharing with me that he works as an operations manager at an airport. And he was saying that it hasn't totally stopped, but that things have been sort of different and getting back to normal. Yeah. And so I was actually super curious if you could speak a little bit to it. And I'm really curious, actually, like the airline industry generally, like what's happening? How are things going? Like, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so the airline industry, when the COVID thing happened, it didn't stop, but it slowed down dramatically. But what we saw was an increase in private aviation, as far as private ownership flights, charter flights, things of that nature. So your corporate type jets. So those have picked up a lot, and I think the reason that has happened is because a lot of people they know who they're traveling with, and they can kind of box themselves in. You're not getting on an airplane with 100 random strangers. You're in a contained environment. So I think that's going to play a key, and it's going to continue to go upward from here. So
nice. And you were sharing a little bit that there's a difference between the regional airports and regional airlines and some of the bigger airlines, and some of the bigger airlines have been playing the system.
Yeah. So rumor has it, I don't have any confirmed information, but rumor has it there's some airlines that are kind of using the PPE, I believe, the Paycheck Protection Program, to kind of help themselves cover some costs. But I don't think everybody's using it to the best of their ability. So, for instance, some airlines may cover the cost of gates in that nature. And when their contract's up, they can pull out, but that won't necessarily come out of their pocket. So the government kind of footing a bill that they would have to pay, and then when their contract's up, they can kind of get out scot-free. So that's kind of
so interesting.
So whether it's true or not, I hope it's not, but that could have an impact on things as well.
Totally. And honestly, I wouldn't be super surprised. Like I went through the process of applying for the PPE because I'm a small business owner. And it's just really interesting because you hear about all these very large companies. Like the whole idea behind PPP was let's protect the small businesses. Let's protect the people who just have a couple employees or work for themselves. And, because they're the hardest hit. And there were a lot of companies that took advantage of very large organizations that took advantage of it and ended up getting millions, if not tens of millions of dollars of this money.
I think the Lakers were at I think they requested 4.2. I'm like, how do you let it go through? It's the Lakers. That's an iconic name.
It's crazy.
How does that happen?
That's crazy, man. I mean, and you talk about was that kind of the intention from the beginning, whatever it was, but stuff happens and we're all going to make it through. So all good. But in switching gears, Malcom, the question that I love to start this show with, and for those of you watching, also feel free to comment your answers in the questions in the comment section below. But Malcom, what is making you happy right now?
Oh, at this very moment, the weather. As you can see, I'm outside.
I can see it.
Ohio is very finicky. Like you can go through winter, spring, summer, and fall in 1 week. Um, Last week it was like upper 80s, and then it dropped down to 60, and then it was rainy. So right now we're high 60s, low 70s, sun shining, great for golf and grilling and outdoor drinking. So they all encompass outdoor drinking. So I'm all game for that. So I'm just enjoying the weather. I love being outside.
I love that, man. Yeah. I think, especially given everything that's happening with the quarantine and social distancing and all that kind of stuff, it's also really important, like giving people having somewhere to go other than just their homes.
Yeah.
Like I feel really lucky. I live right by a park, which is awesome. So I just like go over there, like pop over there, hang out outside for a bit when
So
I get tired
I'll
of
tell
being
you
inside.
this. The COVID has I picked up planting. So I've done a lot of
That's
planting.
cool.
It's put a dent in my bank account. Like I've like kind of before. Like I'll be at
Really?
Home Depot or Lowe's all the time, just getting plants, running out of pots, and like, okay, we gotta buy more pots now. We gotta buy more soil. So it's crazy. It's cool though
Mhm.
because you get to learn about plants. Some of them are finicky. I had a basil plant, just threw that away because it's very finicky.
Mhm.
But yeah, so planting is outdoor gardening is kind of like my new hobby while
I
I'm at home.
love that. I did not know that it was an expensive hobby to pick up. So
I mean, I
that's good
get
to
bored on
know.
the weekend. I'm just like, all right, so what are we gonna do? Can't go anywhere.
Let's go to the garden.
Yeah, let's go back to plants. Like, yeah, let's make
I love that. That's awesome, dude. Very closely related follow-up question, Malcolm. What are you most grateful for today?
Oh, family. I think this COVID thing has allowed me to get a lot more closer with my family than I kind of maybe would not have been.
Mhm.
Um, not seeing them all the time. So you're constantly on FaceTime, on the phone, texting.
Mhm.
So just BSing about anything and everything. Just because you
Mhm.
don't have the opportunity to get together for holidays, birthdays, things of that nature. So it's a little different, but it kind of opens up a whole new corridor for relation building. So
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah. I was thinking about this a while ago where I was like, I think sometimes it's easy to get into these like patterns with people where, and I think everybody goes through this in relationships, but where like you'll be physically in the same space as someone, but like you're not really connected to that person and like
yeah,
you're not really present to that person. And I was like, I think that's kind of an important thing that gets interrupted because in the interruption of it, you then have this opportunity to be like, oh, like I actually I have to be different about how I relate to this person and like,
yeah.
how I connect with that person. And I think that's a good thing. I think it like requires more presence and authenticity and sharing and which I think, just creates deeper relationships. So
More
that's really cool
in-depth
to hear.
conversations. I've found I've had more in-depth conversations with a lot of people. Um, Random people like I haven't talked to in months, an hour phone long conversation. Where maybe
Mm.
in the past it's maybe 15, 20 minutes. All right, catching up. Good. I'll talk to you in, soon, which is like
Yeah.
3, 4 months. Rather now where it's kind of like every other month. How are things going? How are you doing? How's your family? And so forth. So it's a lot more personal, a lot more in
Hmm.
depth than for me at least, than it has
Yeah.
been in the past.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I'd say I am most grateful for I feel like so a big part of what the work that I do is creating more visibility for myself online. And a big part of that is like the content, like writing content, creating content. And I think that historically my relationship with it's felt very much like a chore. It's just felt very difficult to do. And I'm like, oh, I'm like sitting down. I'm like, what am I going to write about today? Or like, what am I going to do? And I feel like I've just been really reinventing my relationship with it and looking at like how can I do it in a way that feels fun and feels engaging and has me showing up at my highest and best but doesn't feel like a chore. And I feel like I've been starting to figure out how to do that, like more so batching my content and just like sit and creating days like Mondays. I don't normally take any phone calls and I don't coach on Mondays. So I can just like set my whole week up and I can have the whole day to just kind of like sit and ruminate and write and, create things.
Yeah. So
And that just feels really good.
have you found yourself more immersed in your work in a less stressful way versus
Yes.
like in the past where you got multiple things going on? Hey, let's go out and play volleyball or let's go out and get a drink versus you really can't go anywhere. So there's not a pressure to get things done. Have you kind of felt that way?
So sort of. Um, well, I don't think that I did much of anything anyways before this pandemic started. So like my lifestyle hasn't changed all that much. I'm like, I work from home anyways.
Yeah.
I didn't go out, that much on the weekends. And I was already pretty focused on my business. But what I will say is that the focus that I do have has shifted, and I've
Okay.
cut out a lot of things that were sort of like extraneous and unnecessary. And because, and you and I were talking about this earlier before we went live, was I've been taking way better care of myself, like physically, mentally, emotionally. And so when I show up to do something, I can knock it out in like a third of the time, because the quality of the energy that I'm bringing and the quality of the presence and attention that I'm bringing is so much higher. So like now I feel like I can get so much more done in like 6 to 8 hours, where before I was like overwhelmed and working like nonstop,
Yep.
8 to 8. So I would say for those reasons, I do feel like I'm working less, and at the same time, I feel like I'm having a bigger impact, and that just feels really good.
I found myself being able to read more, which is something I've always kind of wanted to do. And to be honest, like not much has changed, but since I guess I'm at home more, I have more time to kind of just self-center and focus on things that I feel like I need to focus on and better myself mentally and physically,
Nice.
kind of like you were saying. But yeah, reading is something I've kind of got back into, which is phenomenal.
That's cool. What are you reading?
So I'm reading this book called Unbroken for like the 10th time. But
is it David Goggins?
No, it's I'd have to get you her name. It's written by a female, but it's about a gentleman who in World War II, Americans he went to the Olympics for America, and kind of his journey throughout World War II. He eventually became a POW, and kind of how he survived that during some brutal times and some very really hard. It kind of teaches you not to quit, which is kind of a odd thing that I picked this book up during this kind of time frame. It teaches you to kind of perseverance. There's a lot of perseverance in this book. It's inspiring, to be honest. So
yeah, that's cool. I was going to ask like what resonates with you about that book.
Yeah, I like to read it during the 4th of July Memorial Day time, just to kind of pay homage, if you will, just to know what people sacrifice to kind of give me my freedom and kind of what they go through. Because I think more often than not, we kind of go through our day and we don't think about those things. And people sacrifice their family to give us freedom. So that gives me a little bit of I'm trying to think of the word, but it makes me humble, if you will.
Yeah. It sounds like gratitude too. Just being grateful for what you have, which is cool. We actually have a question from the audience. It's from Ethan Quasler. He asks, has your reading more often allowed you to learn how to spell better as well?
Probably not. I mean, I'm an audio guy. That's primarily the reason, because my spelling is not the best, let's be honest. But it gives me a little bit more insight to some exotic words, put it that way.
Nice. I love exotic words. Those are my second favorite kind of words. Malcom, we move on to one of my favorite parts of this show, which is the random question of the day. Malcom, are you ready for your random question of the day?
I have no other choice but to be.
Whoop, not that thing. All right, here we go. Pulling up the random question generator now. All right, Malcom, your question is, what do you wish you had spent more time doing when you were younger?
Ooh, that is a really good question. Oh, wow. I'm at a loss for words. Probably, being more outdoors. I guess as a child, I was already outdoors a lot. But it was with my friends. We're playing like video games, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, kind of going house to house, Halo. You're doing like everybody bring their Xbox so you can have like a LAN party.
Oh yeah.
But exploring nature, didn't really do a lot of that. But that's kind of what I'm into now: hiking, trail riding, just anything outdoors. I'm game for it.
Nice. It's so funny because I recently, as in the last, maybe five years, have come to appreciate nature and being outdoors. And when I was growing up, my dad was super big on being outdoors and camping, and
Yeah,
we would all go camping. And I was very similar to you in that I wanted to play video games, and I really just like wanted to be inside. So I can actually distinctly remember like bringing my GameCube when we would go to camp, like playing GameCube
I had a
while
game.
we were camping.
I had the Game Boy, and it used to piss me off. It was a Game Boy Advance, so it had no light, and that
Oh,
was just
that's the worst.
brutal. Like trying to find any light, playing it in the car, like you would
Street
pass a
lamp.
street
Yeah,
light. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. That's awesome. I totally agree with that.
It's peaceful though. Like it allows you to kind of escape and kind of reset yourself. I have
Hmm.
just
Yeah,
kind of being out in nature.
I love that. I think for me, I would have probably wanted to have spent more time. I would say, well, I say hobbies, and then I specifically think about performance. Like I'm realizing that I really enjoy being on stage. I do a lot of improv here in Chicago,
Yeah.
and I love performing. And I did a little bit of it when I was younger, but I think I kind of got into this weird space where I felt I was judging myself for doing it, or I felt like I would be judged for doing it. I stopped doing it. But I think that you can, I don't know. I think it's a very empowering experience to like be on stage in front of people and,
Yeah.
build confidence in that way. So I kind of wish I had done more of that.
You know what? I actually would like to have done more school plays. I
Mm,
actually did a school play in
hmm.
high school. And I only
Nice.
did it because I was in track and I didn't feel like running. And this was kind of like the scapegoat because it was during the same time, like a skip practice. And I actually liked it. It was really fun. Just kind of going and being around this group of people,
Hmm.
kind of building a close niche relationship with them over something you have
Nice.
in common. It was kind of like a sport, like being on a football, baseball, basketball team in a way.
Yeah.
That, being a more school plays, that's very random, but yeah,
I
that's
love
part
that.
of
What
it.
part did you play in the play?
So I played Eugene in Greece, um, and I'm just naturally clumsy, so I kind of fell in place with that. And
It just makes
so we
sense.
had it was like this musical number, and we had high
Yeah.
rise steps, and I tripped and fell during like a live performance, which everybody felt like, oh, this is part of the play. No, it was not. Um, and then another time I had toilet paper stuck to my shoe, which was not part of the play. Once again, just a coincidence of me being clumsy. So it kind of fit me pretty well.
That sounds
Um,
like the perfect role.
it really was.
We had a school play. I think it was in the sixth grade, but I think you had to have some part in the actual play. Like I didn't want to, in sixth grade, I guess where I was, like, I just didn't want to be in the play. I wanted to be like stage crew. Like I just
Yeah.
wanted to be like stage, but they were like, no, you have to pick a part in the play. And so I think I was like a baseball player and I sang some song. Um, but yeah, it's, the school plays. What an
They made me
interesting
sing.
time.
And I was shocked about that. Like, if you've ever heard me sing, like your ears just start bleeding. I'm just like, maybe giving me a microphone is not a good idea.
Not the
Like, you can't
best idea.
like clipped on mics where everybody kind of sang together as a group. So that was, I'm pretty sure some people had some good hearing, and I feel bad for them. So I'm sorry.
Sorry about that,
Yeah.
everyone listening. The next random question, Malcolm, what do you think people pretend to like when they really don't?
Um, people. I found
That's a
this.
good answer.
I do it myself, to be very honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Being in somewhat of a customer service aspect, there's people I deal with where I just cannot stand, whether it's their attitude
Yeah.
or their perception of entitlement. And it's like, come on, you're not all that in a bag of chips, but you're kind of my customer, so I kind of gotta respect you. I can't like check you in my workplace, so I have to pretend that I appreciate you. In reality, I probably don't. You're probably annoying, and I just can you hurry up and leave type of thing.
Mm,
So I think people they pretend that they like others when they really don't, because
yep.
it's kind of part of the job depending on what field you are in. It's like politicians, like, oh yeah, we're buddy buddy, but deep down, close the door, screw this guy. He's an a-hole.
Totally. Yeah. No, I agree. I would say that I share that affinity, or I would share that behavior. I actually just did a live stream last week about people pleasing, because
Yeah,
it's something that I'm like really working hard to not do anymore, because it just leads you to be inauthentic with people, even
yeah.
when you're like, I really don't like you, but you're like laughing and pretending like everything's fine anyways, and I'm
Fine
like, I
line.
don't really, yeah, I'm
It's,
like,
it's,
I don't really want to do that anymore.
yeah, it's really hard to tell someone to be like very upfront, to be like, you're a horrible person. And at the same time, you can't just be like Larry David Blunt. Like,
Yeah.
as bad as I want to, I don't have Larry David money, so I can't just be like, get fired and fall back and be like, everything's all right.
It's fun. Yeah, I do think that there is I think there's a way to like approach it, where what I've realized is with people that I don't like, it's being able to detach myself and be like, this actually doesn't really have anything to do with me. You know what I mean? Like this person, this person's
Don't
trying
take
the best that they can. Yeah. And they're like doing the best they can with the tools they have. And like, that's great. And I also don't have to subject myself to it. So it's like, how do I set proper boundaries with this person, but do it in like a loving way? Because I personally, I'm of the belief that like there's no such thing as a bad human unless there's something like
True.
medically, psychologically off. But even then, I think bad is just an interpretation.
One way I like to think of it is like in the aspect of time, where
Mhm.
like, okay, well, I might have to spend 4 to 8 minutes with you, but
Mhm.
I have a 24-hour span. So if you kind of think about it that way, what's a couple minutes versus a whole day?
Totally.
Because you're not, for some people, you're not dealing with them on an everyday basis.
Mhm.
If you are, then you have that ability to build a relationship and kind of explain to them how you really feel and kind of what your perception of them are. And yeah,
Yeah, it's fine. It's like, I get it. You're not my person, and
yeah,
you're a horrible person, and I hate you. So
yeah. You're not my cup of tea, man.
yeah. Well, Malcolm, we move on to the next section of this show. We've played this a couple times in the past, but it's a game called Will You Press the Button? And it's a website that brings a set of random would you rather questions, and we're just gonna see what comes up here.
Yeah.
All right, so the okie doke. Let's skip this one. It's actually a good one. Damn it, didn't mean to skip that. Okay, here we go. Ready? Will you press a button? You become a superhero with enough money to afford all the gadgets you need to fight crime, but your parents are brutally murdered in front of you. Do you press the button, Malcolm?
Oh yeah, I'm pressing the button, dude. Batman.
No questions asked.
Come on.
That was suspiciously fast that you answered that,
Yeah.
Malcolm. So
Yeah.
pressing the button.
I've actually been reading a book. It's called the Psychology of Batman, which is a unique read. I will say that.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, so there's this one aspect of it where there's these people tied to a track. So the Joker put these people on a train track, and now this train's barreling towards it. So it's kind of like the lesser of two evils. Do you allow this criminal who has been tied to the track? I'm trying to think of, like, they named a horrible crime, like maybe he like embezzled money or hurt some people in some other way, or do you got like 50 passengers on a train that do you stop the train to save this one guy, or do you let this one guy who's really bad just die? It's kind of like you got to choose the lesser of two evils. So it's really the whole book is kind of struggling with, no matter what you choose, it's a bad choice. Yeah, this person is a bad person, but it's a human life, and every human life deserves to live. So it's kind of deep. It's a little more deeper than what I thought it was going to be. So that kind of threw me for a loop.
That's really interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah.
Nice. The next, will you press the button? You become a minor celebrity, but you lose all your privacy and are chased by paparazzi.
Now, does that minor celebrity come with wealth?
Minor wealth.
I'm going to have to pass on that. I like my.
Okay, so you are not pressing the button.
I will not press the button.
All right, let's see. Let's see what everyone said. You were in the majority.
There you go.
66% of people said that they would not press the button. I agree with you. I feel like that would be terrible to lose privacy and just be chased around all the time
I
by
think
people.
the privacy kind of gives you that human identity. It kind of makes you who you are, and allowing everybody to know who you are. I guess to a degree, it's fine, but you do want that little bit of something that's yours, that's only you can have access to, something personal. So I think that might be the reason for it. What was the on the last question? Was I in the majority or the minority?
You were in the minority. Which I'm not, that's not very much so surprised, but
Yeah. Oh my God, watching this. Cool.
I love it. All right. The last situation here, you can simulate the real world in every single detail on your computer, enabling you to create various multiverses at your own hands, but you cannot alter anything with yourself, and you can only be you in all of those universes.
I'm gonna press the button. And the only reason I'm pressing the button is because you have multiple chances to do something. So kind of in life, you get a scenario where it's A, B, or C. Yeah, choose A, make another multiverse, choose B, and kind of go on from there. So you can be you, but you can just kind of determine your own outcome, if you will.
Just cheat the system, game the system.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Pressing the button, you are again in the majority. 67%.
2 out of 3 is not bad.
Nice work, Malcolm. Going right with the crowd. I love it.
What about yourself? What would you press on that?
What would I press on that one? I think I would press the button. I think it'd be pretty cool. Like, you know, even if I couldn't, I like me. I like, I like what I'm up to. So I'm like, that's cool if I can create multiverses. And
try something new.
I want. Yeah, exactly. I love that. I'm all about that.
So
bingo.
Yeah.
Well, Malcolm, we move into the second to last part of this show, which is the quote of the day. And the quote of the day today is, "But this is who I am is not an absolute. It's a choice." Rich Litvin, Prosperous really Coach. Yeah. Thoughts, reactions.
You know what that reminds me of? A poem by Oscar Brown Jr. And it's called "I Apologize." And it's I would say fits kind of what's going on in the world in the past week, if you will. And kind of it's you're not putting me in a box. I'm more than just a box. I'm a human. I have feelings. I have there's different people express themselves in various ways. And I think that kind of ties with that. Yeah, you can't put people in boxes. I've done that myself. I've framed people in boxes, and I've come to learn people have different attitudes towards things, and everybody's different. So just because you disagree or you may not have something in common with someone, there's a plethora of reasons why you can connect with someone. So out of 1,000 things, you don't have one thing in common. Does that really make that person a bad person? Kind of like think about from a political standpoint. If you're a Democrat or Republican, does that really make you a bad person? Just because of how you view something. So everybody looks at things through different lenses.
I agree. I think that's part of like what has created the divisiveness and the bipartisan or the partisanship rather, is this question or this idea of like, I'm right and you're wrong, and like you're stupid for what you believe, which is, I think it's kind of ridiculous. And it's also, it's also really interesting because I used to really enjoy, just with where I was in my life, like, liberal commentary like Bill Maher and people in that category. And now I listen to people like that and I'm like, you're an asshole. Like you're just like an elitist asshole. Like, and it's
I found that like I tried to put myself in other people's shoes. That's why I find myself doing more and more each day, because I might not understand where you're coming from, or I might not understand what led to you seeing something that way. So it's very eye-opening to experience other people's views and the reason behind their views. And I think that opens up a broader picture versus, like you said, like I'm right, you're wrong, and there's no middle ground. Well,
Yeah.
why are you thinking that way? What provoked that thought process? That's,
Mhm.
I believe, is the deeper discussion, which is
Mhm.
very, very, for me, it's very educational. And
Totally.
yeah,
And it's uncomfortable for most
that is the
people.
biggest thing. If you step outside your comfort zone, there's so much to learn and gain from it. So much.
Yeah. But it's like the willingness to go there, which I think unfortunately is the thing that's lost. Yeah,
It's
with most of us.
yeah.
It's a bummer. No bueno. No bueno.
Unfortunately.
Well, we've reached the end of the show, Malcolm. We've reached our section for parting words. So, any parting words to leave with us and the folks watching? Any words of wisdom or gems?
I have no words of wisdom, but what I will say is you should go to Home Depot, you should go to Lowe's, you should get you some plants, start some gardening. It's tranquil, man. It's kind of like it's being outdoors, getting your hands in the soil, kind of getting to your roots, connecting with nature.
Nice.
So
I love that.
be one with nature, I would say.
Yeah, but save up first because
Yeah,
it's
don't be
expensive.
able to drain your bank account on basil because you can't grow basil. So just
It's
don't
finicky.
do basil. Don't do
It's
basil.
too finicky. Too
Yeah,
finicky.
it's like a dog. Then again,
I love that. Well, Malcolm, appreciate the heck out of you, man. Thanks so much for coming
yeah,
on
it
and
was a pleasure.
sharing with us.
It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. For those of you watching, thanks so much for being here and watching. I'll see you Friday. But Malcolm, have a great rest of your week, man.
Yeah, hopefully I catch you on the Xbox.
Yeah, brother. We'll see you very soon.
All right, man. Take care.
Peace out. Bye.
See ya.